discretion of the Federal Reserve, that's exactly what we're going to get.
They said they just dropped another 50 some or 31 billion into the economy, and I was talking to a banker friend of mine, and he said to me, Bill, next month in October, we're going to have another 500,000 homes on the market. Andrew, everybody had a nest egg in their home. It's gone.
Well, it's only, again, temporarily gone. I hate to say that those people that probably shouldn't have been buying houses over the last 2 to 3 years.
Well, they make it rough on the rest of us, that's for damn sure.
Well, they're going to be shaken out of the market. And, you know, if you look at the straight-up trajectory that real estate was on, they had to do something because pretty soon, I mean, we were getting to the point where people were buying houses down in Florida without even looking at them. You know,
yes.
That had to stop. So they took all of that speculation out of the market now, and the only pure buyers that are left in there are people that actually want to buy a house, move in, and live in it. And that's the marked difference between now and just 2 years ago. Or
what I seem to hear you say is, brother, that's taking the speculation out of it.
That's right.
And that may be a good thing, you know, that makes it
well,
good.
that's, you know, think of where housing prices were rising. What kind of rate? What were we looking at, like 25, 27% annualized growth?
I mean,
real estate?
That's ridiculous.
Oh, well, that was just a little could have lived with you know, a 12 to 15% annual increase in real estate. But I'll tell you what, this certainly has put the fear of God back into a great many real estate investors. And I think from here, the real estate market could level off. Yeah, it's going to take a minute. Yeah. And here's how it's going to happen, Bill. You know, the Fannie Mae, Federal National Mortgage Association, they're going to have to step up to the plate and buy all of those subprime mortgages for their portfolio. And in doing so, they'll provide an extra bout of liquidity, which I'm sorry to say will start the train rolling again, although with a few less people inclined to get on.
What is the average person out there looking at right now?
Gold, baby.
I'm sorry, what?
Gold. You know my answer there. I've been preaching the gold and silver and platinum, all American coins since, goodness, 1996 or 7. I've had an all-out buy signal on that stuff because as the Fed, see, I don't think they have the guts, Bill, to let us fall into a depression. I do not think they have the guts because I'll tell you what, if we go into one, you're going to have people marching in the streets, those Hoovervilles and things of that nature, you know, camping out across from the White House.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a look at that real close. I think you've already got it, and I'll tell you why. We had truckers protesting the trucks coming across the border down in Texas.
Sure, that's a big issue.
That's a big issue, and that right there is a telltale sign. Forget about the color of the collar. These guys are where the rubber meets the road, guys. These guys are into it.
They want to control wages in this country. Inflation is measured in wages. And so everything they can do to export jobs has already been done. And everything they can do to make the borders more porous to allow cheap labor into this country, they've done. So what's left? Well, goodness, we're going to have to start taking some of these transportation and trucking jobs that, you know, you can't very well dig into. And in allowing this two-tiered system where, you know, a Mexican driver has to qualify under Mexican law and a U.S. driver has to qualify under U.S. law, you create a competitive disadvantage in the trucking industry, which will offset some of that higher fuel prices, which will still keep our prices low and hide the inflation that is being caused by the Federal Reserve.
Now, let's take a look at this. We've outsourced jobs.
That's right.
To the point that there are no jobs being created in this country. Mm-hmm. And we hear about, the economy is booming in China and in India. Well, it's just growing. Hell yes, we gave them the jobs.
At our expense.
At our expense.
Yep.
When is the American public going to wake up and go, hey, time out. Whoa. You're giving our jobs, and you're giving the guy who does this the incentive to do it because of his taxes.
That's right. Yep.
Now, this is crooked. To me, that's just plain stupid. The first Bush administration, the Clintons, and now this guy they have really stonewalled it, and they put the NAFTA and GATT through, which was, and Ross Perot said it better than anybody.
A great sucking sound.
That sucking sound is here, brother.
Yep.
And the jobs are gone.
Yep.
And there's no way of creating them again.
Well, no, we're having that wide disparity in between. It's almost as if the ultra-rich are worrying about themselves, and naturally the politicians are worrying about the very poor, but no one cares about the middle class. They've almost, wiped them off. It's like, take your side, which one you want to be, poor or rich, but there's no middle class anymore. And unfortunately, a great many Americans are falling into that poverty cycle. And,
we used to hear about the American dream. I'm convinced if you've got the American dream, you've got to be asleep to believe it.
Yeah, that's a good one. They're certainly giving it to anyone who qualifies.
Oh, you don't have to qualify. Just get across the border.
Well, that's true. And see, in this immigration policy that they have, where they allow people of high skill and people of, high worth come into this country virtually without trying. I mean, just anyone with money can.
I could not figure out. I struggled with this for years. Andy, you and I go back some 10 years.
That's right.
And Andy has been on the program with me many, many, many times on the radio. And this is his first time here. And what you will hear out of Andy, or I'm sorry, Mr. Goss, Andrew Goss.
No, you got it right, Paul.
Is the facts. He doesn't have to skirt the issue.
All right. I'm not running for anything.
And see, he doesn't owe anybody anything.
That's right. I don't think campaign contributions.
No campaign contributions here. So when you look at worth of a person, I tried for years, and I couldn't figure out, we're going to war, and yet we couldn't close our borders because for some reason they had to leave it open. By the way, what we went to war with last week is no longer the reason we're there. We're here now to fill up potholes in Baghdad, and we've got to rebuild it. But that's okay, because now we're done with that. We're going to go to Iran, and we're going to bomb hell out of them because they're there. I don't understand this.
Well, the more real estate we take over, the more that comes into the dollarization web. This is the real critical function of what they're doing right now.
Wow.
That is that more people around the world have to use dollars, not less.
Well,
more.
Andy, correct me if I'm wrong. Was there not treaties in place that said if you buy oil, you must use dollars?
Absolutely right.
Now Hussein had came out and said, look, I just want to be paid in euros.
Well,
and they
that
said,
was the last thing he did.
I guess that put a hurting in his appetite.
Well, yeah, he can gas people, he can do whatever he wants, but that thing that he did, that was very bad.
That was the end, right
he
there.
Invade another country, all that.
Now,
okay.
We've got Iran sitting over there. Now, I hate to tell this, but it seems that he really doesn't pay too much attention to the fact that you've got ethnicity, you've got different tribes, you've got certain religions.
Sure.
And I'm going, in Iran, they've got 78 million people that are unified under one faith.
Right.
Now, there may be a few Christians here or Muslims or whatever they got.
Yeah, but for the most part.
But for the most part, those people are unified, and they will fight you to the death at the drop of a hat.
That's right.
And they already have.
Just as we would in invading.
Exactly. And like they should.
Yeah, I'd take the day off and go out there and do the same thing.
Now, I know that the big deal is he wants to put a pipeline through there.
Absolutely. Got to have that.
And that seems to be the essence of it. Listen, Andy, stay right there. We're going to take a pause in the action here. Folks, don't take your seatbelt off. Andrew Goss is going to be here for a few more minutes. We ain't going to let him go tonight. Okay. Anyway, you guys stick around. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this pause.
Good stuff, man.
Hey, we're back. I'm Bill Boshiers. My guest tonight, Andrew Goss. He's the author of The Secret World of Money. It is a must-read if you really want to know what your banker's doing to you. Anyway, Andy, where do they get the book now?
It's 10th year in print just went by.
My God.
But I think we have a few up on eBay.
Uh-huh.
And Amazon still sells them. In fact, you can find used copies and such on Amazon. So,
wow. works.
And, of course, you can always get them at the 800 number, 800-468-2646.
Well, I'm not giving up my copy. That's it. I've got it marked up.
Coming a classic because, I pretty much made a few bold predictions in there.
You
they were
sure
talking
did.
about
You
slashing
sure
the debt then. Remember all that silly
Yep,
nonsense?
I sure
talk?
do.
Yeah, that's never happened.
And the trick is that it's still timely. That's the point, Andrew.
Well, thanks. A lot of the material in there was intended to be more of a primer or primer, whatever you want to say there. So, because I find folks just don't understand how the money system works, where money comes from, how it gets into circulation.
And what you don't understand, ladies and what he's telling you is simply this. If you don't know where it comes from, you don't know how to solve the problem.
That's right.
And if you don't know how they're screwing you with fiat money,
right.
That's the key to all of our problems in this country. See, if you take the dollar back on the silver or gold standard, you wouldn't have any problem.
Yeah, you'd sure make a lot of honest bankers all of a sudden.
In a heartbeat.
A lot of these bad, this is the real problem. Here's the way that I liken what's happened to the Federal Reserve. They created this ability to create money out of debt, right? They said, okay, well, debt can be turned into money. And here's the analogy. You had two guys go into a store, and one of them intends to steal a pack of gum. And the other one opens up its bag and starts stuffing it with everything in the store. Now, the guy that was going to steal the gum, that's the Federal Reserve. And the guy that stole all the money, that's those subprime lenders. So now the Fed has a choice. Either help the guy get away or get caught themselves. And I believe they're going to help the guy get away.
Oh, absolutely.
And so in doing that, what they have to do then is turn all of that bad debt into money so that there will be no shortage of money. Because, remember, money is based on debt, not on gold. So as long as there's a debt, then you can create money. And my goodness, there's no shortage of debt.
Boy, if I could do that, I'd really make out.
Yeah, and so we have. So
they're the only business I know of in all of the world, but the rest of the world's got fiat money too.
Well, they do, and they're all controlled by the same people.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's the only company I know of that makes money out of debt.
That's right. Yep. And that's what they're authorized to do. That's what they're chartered to do by Congress, and they're chartered to do that in a monopoly fashion. So no one else has the ability. You're right.
Andy, if you and I set up a Ponzi scheme like that, we'd be in jail so fast it make our heads swim.
Yeah, I saw a great bumper sticker once. It was, don't steal, government hates the competition. And in this case, the Federal Reserve will not tolerate competition under any circumstances. But in the case of their 22 primary bond dealers, that, unfortunately, is allowed to go on. So the people that own the Federal Reserve are allowed to monetize or to create instruments like these collateralized mortgage obligations, and they call them CMOs and CDOs.
And what's the other one?
CDOs, collateralized debt obligations.
I like these hedge funds. I love hedge funds.
Hedge funds are wonderful because they borrow money to buy those CDOs.
Exactly, and none of them is regulated.
But every time they create a debt instrument and say, okay, I want to buy that $1 billion worth of mortgages, and I want to borrow $999 million in order to do it. I'll put up $1 million of my own money, and I'll borrow $999 million. Now I've got $1 billion worth of debt. Well, that $999 that I've borrowed, if I can't repay it, then the Federal Reserve simply creates it. So that's what they're going to do for this subprime mess bill. They're going to, never mind $400 or $500 billion, you're talking $2 to $2.5 trillion will come into circulation over the next 18 to 24 months. And man, is it just going to make us all feel so good, like drunks at a party, There's going to be money everywhere. They didn't name him Helicopter Ben for nothing.
You got that right. Andy, I'm going to put you on hold. We'll take a call. You get the question, and then we'll come back and you give the answer. How's that?
Okay, good.
Stay right there. Steve, you're on the air with Andrew Goss. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is this. I've followed politics all my life, since I could vote when I turned 18.
Okay.
And NAFTA, Ross Perot, said that, we were going to lose all these jobs.
Right.
And he's a billionaire. And I'm screaming this to everybody. And I took the Cincinnati Enquirer Friday. They had that, where they had the truck drivers boycotting
Yeah.
the truckers down there,
Yeah.
and it was like on page 6. And I'm like screaming, why ain't this on the fucking front page? They're going to be taken.
I can't have that. Andy, you want to address that?
Wow, I drew a blank myself when I heard that, Bill.
Well, if you get drunk and you call or you're having
You feel
fun.
passionate about something. That guy was passionate.
He's passionate. Why is it on the page 6? It's,
Okay, well, and here's why, and it's unfortunate.
but he's got a good page. He makes a good point, but go ahead.
Up on my website, there's a piece called An Independent Press, and it's a toast that the retiring chief of staff of the New York Times gave to his colleagues. And it was basically, there is no such thing as an independent press. Every one of you and me and everybody else in this business does exactly what we are told.
Exactly.
If we ever put our honest opinion on the radio or on the front page, we'd be out looking for a job the next day. So this toasting an independent press is folly. The people that, and that was his quote, paraphrasing it, the people that own the Federal Reserve understood a long time ago that they need control over these various media sources. And so they've done so in a rather grand fashion. They've pretty much taken over what America calls or uses for news. And in the case of the NAFTA or GATT or removal of good-paying jobs to other countries to keep inflation low, that doesn't make the front page because it wouldn't be in the interest of the people that own the paper. And unfortunately, that's the way America is. So if you want your news, you're tuned to the right place, probably.
You're getting more here than you will anyplace else. And
Oh, yeah.
speaking of that, Andy, stick around, stay right there. We've got to go to break. We'll come right back with more of Andrew Gause right here at the home of the Scizone. Hey, we're back. I'm Bill Boshiers, the Scizone. This is 38, the home of the Scizone. Andy, stay right there. Who have I got on line 4? Let's go to Don. You're on the air, sir, with Andrew Gause. Go ahead.
Hey, Bill, how are Andrew?
Doing well.
Let me ask, we all know that the country's in a state of chaos.
Yes.
Excuse me. The government doesn't know what it's doing. The monetary system doesn't know what it's doing. Businesses can care less except for their boats, yachts, etc. The only thing I can really, and I hope you guys judge me on this, is to see what we could really do to send a clear-cut message is everybody do one thing. Stop paying taxes.
Oh.
Can you reiterate on that?
I can't, but I'll let Andrew do it. Thank you for being there. I appreciate the call, sir.
Thank you,
Take it
sir.
off air, please.
Bye-bye.
Andrew, what do you think of that?
Stop what now?
Stop paying taxes.
Stop paying taxes. Well, that's the funny thing. A guy named Beardsley Rummel, who was the president of the New York Fed, wrote a great piece entitled Revenue for Taxes are Obsolete.
Yes, he did.
And they don't care if you don't pay. Listen, you should pay all taxes that you lawfully owe. And the Constitution calls for certain types of taxes, indirect tax or direct tax. Figure out which one you want to pay and pay that one. Certainly, if you're familiar with the work of Aaron Russo or many others out there, there have been a great many people through the last 30 years or so.
I've had a number of them on the show, and a number of them are in jail.
Yeah, it is what I was going to say.
Schiffers, what's his name? Schiffers, his name? Out of Las Vegas.
Irwin Schiff.
Erwin Schiff, I'm sorry.
That's all right. They've taken the high road on this and brought the battle on that stop paying taxes thing right to the forefront.
Right to the forefront.
And like you say, a great many of them wound up in jail. I don't think there are many Americans out there that have the intestinal fortitude to stand up against.
Nor do they have the money.
Yeah.
Nor do they have the expertise
Yeah,
to do it.
this is a police state. These guys are they're serious.
They're serious and they're well trained, and they'll come after you in a
They
heartbeat.
will, yeah. They can make your life living hell. Now, what is a good thing to do, however, is to make sure that 100% of your wealth is not electronically denominated, so that at least you don't have an electronic chain around your neck, which is where most Americans are. God forbid they can't get to their bank account. That's the end of the world. So in this case, if you're very careful and prudent through your life, and you put a portion of your wealth outside of the electronic system, then at least you can maintain some semblance of privacy.
Exactly.
And that's the real key, as far as I'm concerned, in dealing with this issue.
Quickly, we'll take another phone call here. Andrew Gauze, stay right there. Who we got? Annette, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello, my love.
Hello.
Yeah. Andrew, we need to know about this, 10-lane highway that's going from Mexico through where that bridge, which may have been blown, just like the Pentagon. I don't know about that all the way.
Anytime you have a Republican convention in a town that has that, and then the next week you get a guy in the airport tapping his foot, you got a problem there. And that, I'll let Andrew take that answer off air. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is basically part of that NAU thing, right?
Yeah.
Bill?
That North American
Union.
it's all it amounts to.
Yeah. The idea of a single route that connects all three countries.
Well, that's
We
what
had the feel-good stuff back in the 60s with that Trans-Alaskan Highway.
Well, all we've got now are Mexican drivers coming across the border, going anywhere they want.
That's right.
And it's all going to come to a head.
Now, that's the key. I mean, right there. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about a single road that everyone is allowed to drive on. A single point between Canada and Mexico that goes right through the heart of the United States. But rather that folks from these countries will have the same kind of rights the way that you do when you drive from one state to another. You have a Virginia driver's license and you drive to North Carolina or something like that.
Andy, on this road, you will not be allowed to drive on it.
Well, we won't.
No.
But they certainly will.
They'll be able to.
That's
and
right.
It's all going to come to a head when Juan, whoever he is, happens to get in Chicago or New York and an ice storm hits. And he takes his truck and runs into a school bus or some other catastrophe like that.
Well, I'll tell you where it's going to get worse is that part of this deal involves privatization of the nation's roads and infrastructure. And the foreign companies that are doing this are Sintras out of Spain and the Macquarie Group out of Australia. And basically their concept is that once you put a transponder on a vehicle, then you can charge them for whatever road that they're driving on based on their usage.
And that's what they want to do.
That's ultimately what they want to do. And I think that this highway is just a forerunner to this. It will be the most high-tech road that the world has ever seen in terms of its ability to track and monitor vehicles driving on the road, who they are, where they're from, and whether or not they've paid the appropriate tax to be driving on that road.
Andy, I want to thank you for being here tonight. It's, as always, a pleasure to hear you and your philosophies. I really enjoy it.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll be in touch. You take care. Stay safe. But I want you to join me again, will you?
I will gladly do that, Bill.
You got it, my friend. You take care and stay safe.
All right, you too.
Good night. And that was Andrew Gauze. I'm Bill Boshears. I guess we ought to take a break here. But before we do, hang on, because we got some news. And the UFO, those of you who are into the UFO community and you've asked for it, tonight we've got some video footage from Brazil. I've got some on a Concorde missile, and we've got the first UFO released footage from China tonight, right here. And we'll be taking your calls about that. We'll get to some news and issues. We come right back right after this message. Stick around. We got more to do, and it's all about you. I'm back, Bill Boshears here till the witching hour of 1 o'clock. Next week, we will start an hour early at 11 o'clock. So be sure you get here early, because if you wait till 12, it'll be all over with. Anyway, glad you stopped by tonight. Tonight, when you call, I'm going to ask you where you call from. Some interesting things have happened. If you may have heard about the toothpaste, the tires, and some of the food stuff coming in here from China. Now, whether you buy it or not doesn't matter to me. I don't. That's neither here nor there. But I thought I'd give you some statistics. About 40 to 45% of the apple juice consumed in the USA comes from China. That's right. And the U.S. Apple Association Industrial Group, about 47% of all the apple juice is imported, and 65% of that comes from China, he says. He, meaning Shannon Schaffner, I should say. China is the #1 apple producer in the world and is leading apple juice exports. They grow 47% of all the apples on the planet, and we only grow about 11%. Now, because of the concerns about all this food issues, that's why I'm doing this. The other thing, I don't know how many of you know this or not, but China produces 75% of the world's garlic. I don't know what the deal is with that, but Bill Christopher, the owner of the Christopher Ranch, is a major grower of garlic in Gilroy, California. Been there many times. California grows 99.9% of all the U.S. garlic, he says. There are roughly 150 million pounds of fresh garlic peel from California sold in the U.S. in 2006, and 170 million pounds from China. So there's about 20 million pounds difference. Now, the last one I'm going to give, well, the next one, I got two more. Honey. China is also the world's leading producer of honey, with the largest single importer of the golden sweets juice. America's ate 400 million pounds of honey in 2006. And much of China's population still engages in rural agriculture, which the bees are a more intricate part of that. So they have all these people doing beekeeping stuff, so they got honey. Now, the last one is something that I've come to really watch. About 80% of the seafood eaten in the U.S. is imported, 5 billion pounds overall. 16% of the seafood eaten by U.S. consumers comes from China in 2005. And about almost 1 billion pounds of the National Fishery Institute, in the group they say. Now, the Chinese seafood quality and cleanliness isn't always up to standards in the USA. I need not say anymore. There are certain fish, one is a tilapia, I think is one of them, some shrimp and some other stuff. I just am very guarded. I don't eat a lot of red paint on my toys, and I don't buy Chinese tires. So, consequently, it could be safer. The USDA and the rest of them don't have enough people to screen everything that comes into this country. Now, I'm not a doomsayer, but this was already talked about before we exported all the jobs and got everything done. That's so like this company, our country, I should say. We go ahead, jump in and do all these things, make all these rules, laws, and regulations, and invite people into this country when we have no infrastructure for them. The NAFTA and GATT program, a severely challenged kind of thing, when in fact most of what they do is there's no infrastructure for it. We're allowing trucks to come into this country. We don't have enough people to inspect them, case in point. If they get 1 in 10 trucks, they'll be lucky. It's a matter of time until something is smuggled into this country. Tonight, I would estimate that the dope coming into this country, be it marijuana, heroin, or cocaine, whatever it might be, is on its way to your city, USA. You don't have to believe me. Watch the crime rate. Oh, here's something for you. An audit says Homeland Security is not making progress and not preventing another attack. The congressional auditors gave a stinging assessment of Homeland Security, and the progress of the department cannot take credit for the absence of terrorist attack on soil since September the 11th. The department's primary mission is to prevent such a strike. I don't think, and I'm quoting somebody here, it says, I don't think we can take comfort in the fact that necessarily that we haven't had another attack. Government Accountable Office Controller General David Walker told senators Thursday, just 5 days before the 6th anniversary of the attack, in a 320-page document, the GAO identified 71 performance expectations that they found alone, and they've achieved fewer than half since it was formed 4 years ago. Now, as you might know, I've got a list of what they have not done, and I'll give them to you quickly. Auditors found progress in these areas, identifying the spots where illegal people cross the border into this country. Let me give you some help. The border is in the south. I'd start there. I mean, that would be my first thing right off the top of the barrel. I'd start looking in the south. Wouldn't you guys? That makes more sense to me than anything else. Removing criminal aliens and establishing a strategy to prevent human smuggling. Break, I'll come back and give you the rest of these, and we'll take a look at some of that UFO footage when we get back here. Stick around. We got more to do, and you're a part of it right here in the zone at 38. Robin, and I don't know who the other person is, but let me get back to this, and we'll get to your phone calls right now. Homeland Security, I was telling you about some of the things they forgot to do. It gets better. Setting standards and procedures for securing the outer perimeter of airports. Take some of the idiots you got in there body searching old women 85 years old, put them out there looking around. That would help. Issuing standards for securing non-aviation transportation. That sounds like a government thing. Establish a single all-hazard plan for response to disasters. I got one. You had it years ago. Duck and cover under a wooden desk. It'll work every time. Coordinating research and development countermeasures for chemical, biological, and nuclear terrorist threats. I don't know that we've ever had any, but it wasn't caused by our government, but that's neither here nor there. And the final thing, right here in my hands. But if you ask me, the job of keeping us safe done, is the answer to that is no. Chertoff said that. It is not done, and it may not be done in our lifetime. I rest my case. There's an idiot that the Concorde is flying along, and this orb goes around it and then ahead of it. Let's hit it. Now, this was footage of one of the maiden voyages of it, and got some in it. You'll notice it's highlighted on the side. Right underneath of it, you will see the missile fall off? It never ignites. Now here we do it again, and there goes the UFO that collects it. This is what they didn't want everybody to see. Now think about, how would you like to be, you're flying along, this thing dislodges, a UFO comes along and swipes it. Now think about that for a minute. Well, there's no such thing. Anomalies of the weather. Yeah, sure. Here. I'm telling you, they're out there whether you like to believe it or not. Let me give you some thoughts. Closing here tonight. Thank you all for being here and taking the time out. Yes, I'd like to do all the things that you suggested. 2 hours, we'll get to that, but we need other things in place before we do that. Second, and that is coming. Secondly, because of scheduling and other things, information is what this is about. It's driven by information, and you're choosing to know. It's not something that I've decided to do because I'm a nice guy. It's just the way it is. Information is driven, but I'm convinced that most people really don't want the truth. They want enough information that concurs with their prejudiceness. I'm Bill Boshears. This is the Scizone. And Channel 38 is the home of the Scizone. Join me next week at 11 o'clock. Be here. Thank you. Have a good night.